Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio. And now, here's our host, Dr. Vanessa Anceloni.
Dear listener, we are talking about Allan Kardec. Allan Kardec talked about in the Spirit's book the very awareness that only God is immutable. God does not change. Everything else changes, but God doesn't. This means we change as well. So, how do we change? How do we move from one stage of life to the next? Spiritism may have the answers. Heather Fonseca is going to be here with us right after this first message in the break to talk about the very fact that Spiritism can help us changing lives. And to set the tone of the program, we have the beautiful message of Joana de Angelis, Silent Attitude, from the book and CD, Living and Loving, which you can acquire at the bookstore of the Spiritist side of Baltimore, www.ssbaltimore.org. And this message is for us to talk about this deep change, one that sometimes is unspoken, is silent. Let us think about this. Let us listen to this message. And after the break, Heather Fonseca is going to be with us.
Chapter 10, Silent Attitude.
A popular proverb says, silence gives consent. But this is not always so. Silence is more than mere compliance. Some people consent because they fear conflict. Others consent to avoid fruitless argument or to safeguard personal interests. There is a dynamic type of silence, though. It is wisdom that keeps silent when fools chatter and violent persons yell. Wise people will speak only when asked. Their words clarify and illuminate. Wisdom implies self-balance and discipline. It reveals self-control of one's emotions. We must free ourselves from all base passions because they degrade, consume, and torture. Many people talk without thinking. Careless and thoughtless talking raises conflicts, throws people against each other, and disturbs the community. Silence, however, should not turn into obstinate sulkiness, indifference, or contempt. We advise silence only to avoid idle discussions, fruitless debates, or needless self-defense. To react through hot argument is rather easy, but to listen patiently to aggression and defamation asks for a noble, stoic behavior, an attitude that benefits both yourself and your opponent, spreading peace around you. Forget the evil done to you and do whatever good you can. Your actions will speak for you. If people do not respect you, they will not agree with you anyway. Do not let yourself be disturbed by affront. It usually comes from irresponsible persons who ignore their own limitations. Time is too precious to be wasted on trifles. Praise or approval will not make you a better person. Likewise, insult, abuse, or malice will not lessen your virtues. Attend to your duties and wait patiently. Keep in mind that the allotment of time is the same to everyone, but each person uses it differently. Allan Kardec, who codified the Spiritist doctrine, never paid attention to what people thought of him. Neither did he enter into unprofitable debates. Thought his opponent needed an answer. He offered luminous pages of spiritual wisdom, demonstrating the excellence of spiritualist concepts, grounded on the ethical and moral philosophy of the gospel. These same concepts are now being demonstrated by science through innumerable experiments which enhance a new spiritual awareness, and this awareness will help mankind to reconsider attitudes and feelings so that spiritual ascent may be accelerated.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Getting to the Light, Spiritist Therapy for Discarnate Spirits is a small book that offers guidance to Spiritist practitioners and Spiritist counselors. Purchase your copy at www.ssbaltimore.org.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
If you missed out on a previous shows, no worries. We have an on-demand section of all previous shows and interviews. Go to our website at www.kardecradio.com.
Spread the word. Kardec Radio, to learn more about Spiritism.
Help prevent suicide by reading and sharing these books with others. 2 great books are available to help in this Kardec Radio campaign to prevent suicide. Suicide, All You Need to Know, by the international Spiritist speaker Richard Simonetti. You can buy your copy at www.roundtablepublishing-uk.com. Also, Memoirs of a Suicide by the medium Yvonne Pereda. Buy your copy today at www.ediceiofamerica.com.
Kardec Radio, live every Saturday at 11 a.m.
Kardec Radio now offers more programs during the week and weekends. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can follow the beautiful program God at Home with Francisca Kranz and the British Spiritist community. They will brighten your days by doing a God at Home meeting wherever you are in the world, while teaching you how to do the same in your own home with your family and friends. Every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will hear incredibly inspirational Spiritist talks directly broadcasted by Spiritist Network. There will be true educational moments to carry out to immortality. Every Saturday, live interviews, Bridging Health and Spiritism with the host Dr. Vanessa Anceloni. You may ask questions to the interviewed guests by calling 858-769-4705. And every Sunday, tune in to Spiritist Awareness at Kardec Radio. You will hear a series of segments on a diversity of Spiritist topics. Kardec will broadcast the Spiritist Moment with Kirsten DeMello, the reading of the Spiritist book by John DeRosa and Steve Shepard, Spiritism in Your Life with Drs. Marco and Joyce Magalhães, Spiritism and the Gospel with Luis Sergio Marotta, Spiritist Education for Youth and Children with Bernadette Leal, Spiritist Music with James Marotta, Neuroscience and Spiritism with Dr. Vanessa Anceloni, and many more segments coming soon. Enjoy it all and nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
And now we return to our program.
Oh, dear listener, this program is quite special because finally we're going to talk about a book that was written by an author in Spiritism that is living today. Yeah, it may sound funny to you when I say this, but it's real. Because if you read Kardec, Kardec is in the spiritual realm, but not here. If we want to do like a forum about his book and talk to him, 101, like incarnate to incarnate, he is not here. If you want to talk to Chico Xavier, he is in the spiritual realm, and all of his authors as well. So what do we do? Well, here we have it. Heather Bollock Fonseca is here. She is in the incarnate plane, and it's not funny when we say this, but it's for real. She's here. She can talk to you about the very book we can discuss, so then we can understand more about Kardec's books, Andre Louis' books, Emmanuel's books, every other book that was psychographed by Chico Xavier, etc., etc. And Heather has been a student of Spiritism for more than 15 years. She's an active contributor to the United States Spiritist movement, and she participates in the dissemination of Spiritism through speaking, writing, translating. She's the co-founder and the chief developer of the Spiritist website, ExploreSpiritism.com, which is a great website, and she wrote a book, Changing Lives with Spiritism, Fresh Perspectives for a New Humanity. And she's here with us, so let us enjoy and relay your questions and comments during this beautiful time. Thank you so much, Heather, for being with us today at Kardec Radio.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you for inviting me to be in the show. It's my pleasure to join you.
It's great, Heather. When we talk about changes, as we said before, the only thing, and I say thing for lack of better words, that doesn't change in the universe is God. Everything else changes, but people sometimes don't know how to change, etc. How did you come about the idea of the book in itself?
Well, a little bit through my own experience in coming to learn about Spiritism and discovering all the ways that it changed how I saw life in terms of seeing life in a much bigger picture than the very moment that I'm living at any given time, realizing that there is something before this life and after this life, and the meaning that it gives to why we are here now. And I think Spiritism has a great capacity to bring us consolation and comfort, as well as resolution for all the questions that we have, in such a way that we can move forward, because we are no longer hindered by some of those things that cross our path and kind of stagnate us for some time. And so I think that, I think that this changes lives by changing perspective.
Yes. So in your case, you became acquainted with Spiritism, let's say, a decade and a half ago, more or less. How did that happen?
Oh, I was introduced to Spiritism by my husband, who grew up in a Spiritist family. And this was not long after, in fact, my grandfather had disincarnated, as I would say today. At that time, I really didn't know at all what that meant, and I also had a lot of questions concerning life and God and religion. So I think that it was perfect timing, because I was really struggling with that experience. And he and his mother, they introduced me to books like the Spirit's book, and I found in the Spirit's book, to begin with, that was my first book, all the answers that I had been looking for so long, and that was the beginning. And from there, I went to read the Gospel according to Spiritism, and pretty much any books I could get my hands on. I immediately fell in love with Spiritism.
It's interesting. So for you, it was just like as you found something that you knew deep inside, but it was right there in front of you.
Yes, exactly. I remember before I actually, got to read the book, when I heard a little bit about it, and I was a little skeptical, only because it was so completely new to me. But once I started, reading from Kardec's books and seeing this whole string of logic where, like pieces of a puzzle, just start falling into place one after the other, I did have that feeling like, wow, this is something that just makes so much sense to me. It's like I kind of understood that in some way before, but now it's laid out for me so clearly and filling in so many gaps.
And Heather, when we talk about changes, for example, God doesn't change, we do change, but people are afraid of changes. Sometimes they want to change but don't know how to change. And you're saying one of your chapters is exactly about changing by changing perspectives. And how do you think Spiritism offers fresh perspectives, as you say in the book?
Well, we can talk about that in many aspects. So as I was saying, for me, my first encounter with this change was just realizing that life goes on. I was having such a terrible time, with the passing of my grandfather, and I really didn't have any conviction of whether I would see him again. And I wondered what was the point of his life, of all of the learning, all the loving, the relationships, and so just understanding that we are spirits, and that when this life is over, that we go on living. And of course, it's not a new concept, but the proof, if not proof, then extremely strong evidence, convincing enough for me, through Spiritism, through what I read from Kardec, and the study of the spirits, that brought that conviction to me. That was very important. And then when we realized also what life is like when we go on, and we discover that there is no eternal damnation, and that instead there are these different realms of the spiritual world, and we discover how active life is, and it's fascinating to read about all the activity that goes on. And so I think that we open up our view of life, so that we are not just seeing the time from birth to so-called death here in the material world. But at the same time, Spiritism gives us a lot of insight into the reasons about why we suffer, or why we go through so many difficult or challenging experiences we might call trials, or, as we learn Spiritism, expiation. That there's a reason for all that, because I think that a lot of people are confused, or are looking for answers. They're questioning, if God is so loving and so perfect, why do we see so much anguish in this world? Why is there so much poverty and violence and suffering? And people wonder what they could have ever done, or maybe think that they've never done anything that could bring about such events. So they wonder where all of that comes from. And when we start to learn about reincarnation, it brings us, like I said, a new vision. But we don't have to see our suffering as a form of punishment. And I think that's also something very special in Spiritism, is that we understand that we are not perfect, and we are all on a path of learning and growing. And these experiences are a way that this planet in which we are living serves as a school for us, and at the same time as a hospital, so that we can heal, when we are, quote-unquote, spiritually wounded or in need of some certain kinds of treatment. And so God gives us the opportunity to come here, and the experiences that we have are all a part of that. And we learn how that begins to make sense through Spiritism. So people find reasons for what they are going through, and they find motivation. They find the wherefore to make the effort, to make some changes, and to look forward to a happier tomorrow. Because we also learn about the wonderful future that each of us has in store for us. But it, of course, is we study in Spiritism, it takes our own effort to walk every step that it will take to get there. And in that process, it's so inspiring.
And it's so interesting because what you're saying is really inspiring, but it has been there for more than 156 years in very clear terms. But why do you think in the English-speaking cultures we have such a hard time finding our pathway to Spiritism?
Well, I'll tell you, until I had heard of Spiritism, I had really no even exposure to this kind of things. When I was growing up, as I mentioned in the book, we never spoke about spirits. We never talked about reincarnation. I think that even in the last 15 years, a lot has been changing in the English-speaking world, and we are discovering that a growing number of people are becoming, more open to these concepts. But I think that, just looking at my experience, and I know a lot of people that, grew up with me and around me at the time, we really didn't even learn about any of this. I grew up close to Hydesville, New York, with the birthplace of modern spiritualism, and I never even heard of all that. I never even heard of this phenomenon, the happenings, in the 1800s, which led to Kardec's opportunity to begin to study the spirit phenomena and the spirit communications. So I think that in some ways it is a matter of awareness and the fact that there's a lot of information out there that is conflicting with the way that we understand Spiritism and even spiritualism. So I think that when people start looking, as they become aware of this idea of spirits and reincarnation, and they go, for example, online to start looking for more information, they're going to come across a lot of websites and videos and things that have the potential to maybe turn them away if they don't kind of land in the right place. So I think that our dissemination of Spiritism is so important to raise awareness of these truths that we find in Kardec's book, for example.
So was that the reason why you found the website ExploreSpiritism.com to help people discern more about?
Well, at that time, I didn't even know about all the ways that this word Spiritism was being used with other meanings or other ideas about what people who, quote-unquote, practice Spiritism do. I just knew that I had read all of this wonderful stuff in these books from Kardec and some from Chico Xavier at the time, André Luis. And I remember the day that I turned to my husband and said, we have got to let people know about this. We've got to do something. And that's when the idea of the website came about. Yeah. And
that's great because ExploreSpiritism.com is quite comprehensive, and it's always very up to date with the latest information that is coming about in the English language. So I would really share with the listener that they also explore the website ExploreSpiritism.com. Now, in your book, you talk about Spiritism in a holistic view. Why did you choose that expression to talk about it?
Well, a couple things. In my experience, what I have found in Spiritism is there are so many concepts that we study that are not unique to Spiritism, nor are they necessarily unique to this time in which we are living. They have, the communication with the spiritual realm, the existence of the spiritual realm, things like that. They have been with humanity since ancient times. But I find that Spiritism has, I think, the most complete and organized picture where different concepts that we find scattered in several places come together like puzzle pieces into one picture in Spiritism. And we see the kind of threads of logic that hold all of it together. At the same time, I think a lot of people are struggling with religion versus science. Mm-hmm. And they feel like they have to make a choice. And this happened to me, something I mentioned in the book, where one of my classes in high school, I had to actually write a paper about whether I believed in creation or evolution. And I think that's almost, like the poster for the science versus religion arguments that we hear around us. And I was so relieved in my studies of Spiritism to begin to understand creation through the process of evolution, that creation and evolution are ongoing, and we don't have to choose between the two, science and religion. And in Spiritism, they come together in one holistic picture so clearly and so in such an inspiring way.
Yes, this is certainly inspiring. Now, Heather, we're going to give a short break, but when we come back, we would like to continue discussing some aspects of the book, and especially when you talk about the perspective from up here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We will return to our program after these messages.
New release, Liberation. In this compelling narrative, Andre Luiz emphasizes the work of high-order spirits in the effort to convert the spirit Gregorio to the good, an effort that culminates with the unforgettable re-encounter with his mother, herself a highly evolved spirit, wherein he surrenders to the irresistible call of love. The book also contains information on how unhappy spirits act as they try to involve incarnates in their wiles. The spirit author tells of the intercession of high-order spirits on behalf of human beings, demonstrating the divine compassion that grants to all the blessed opportunity to free themselves by means of study, labor, and persevering service in the practice of the good. Buy your copy today at www.ediceiofamerica.com.
Spread the word. Kardec Radio, to learn more about Spiritism.
Want Spiritist books for your children? At Edicei of America, you will find a collection of them. From the best-selling book, Our Father, in which the Spirit Mei through Chico Xavier brought countless poems, stories, and folk tales based on the Lord's Prayer, to the beautiful and educational collection by the author Adelson Sales on Back to School and many others. Buy your copy today at www.ediceiofamerica.com.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
If you missed out on previous shows, no worries. We have an on-demand sections of all previous shows and interviews. Go to our website, www.kardecradio.com.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
Spiritism for Everyone is the live web study meeting and educational program of the United States Spiritist Council. This year, in commemoration of the 150th anniversary of the Gospel according to Spiritism, the Spiritism for Everyone program will present an in-depth study of this remarkable book. Join us every Wednesday evening through the web from any computer or mobile device, no matter where you are in the U.S. Spiritism for Everyone is free, open to all, and requires no registration. For more information, go to www.spiritus.us.
And now we return to our program.
Dear listener, we are here talking about changing lives with Spiritism. And the author of the book is Heather Volek-Fonseca. She's here with us talking about how changing perspectives can help us change lives. Heather, in one of your chapters, you talk about the perspective from up here. So it's a different angle that will probably favor a change in perspectives. Can you tell us what angle that would be?
Yeah, of course. The up here probably, when people first see that, they might imagine I'm thinking the way we think of heaven, maybe talking about the spirits and the way that they shared such insights with us. But I didn't really mean up here in terms of heaven or something like that. My reference in that chapter title was kind of the sensation that I had as I started to study Spiritism and understand more about our life as evolving immortal spirits. Because without that knowledge, our only reference point is the here and now. It is this life. It is between our birth and our death. And we consequently end up having so many questions about what we are experiencing in this lifetime and what others are experiencing, why there are so many differences among us, and disparities in life experiences all around the world. So when we begin to see that we are all on this journey and that we have actually lived many lifetimes before this one, and then on the other end of the spectrum, when we understand that life goes on after the death of a physical body and that we will continue to have other incarnations after this one, it's almost like we are zooming out. I use that terminology as one of the analogies that I offer in this chapter, because it's like the GPS systems. If you're looking at your GPS, you're driving down the road, and you can be in the first viewpoint that it gives you, where you see your immediate surroundings, or you can kind of zoom out and start seeing from as high of a level as you want. You could see, where you came from and where you can go. And in fact, not only the one path that you have to follow, but the many options that you have available to you. And I think that that's exactly what Spiritism offers us. And so we begin to understand that who we are today is a culmination of everything that we have done until now. And we understand that as we follow this journey, what we truly are able to see as a journey, we make choices every day. And it is in our hands the kind of path that we will take to our ultimate destiny. And so I think when I wrote about the perspective from up here, it is really related to what we were talking about before the break in terms of the holistic picture, because we are kind of backing out in order to see so many more aspects of life, but not in disconjointed pieces, rather how they are all related to one another and how we can make use of that knowledge in order to bring more peace into our lives, and also make the efforts today that will reward us in the future.
It is so interesting when we talk about the changes in perspectives. As Daniel Santos was here answering a question that we relate to the listeners, he says that Spiritism changes lives because mainly it has a clear and rational teaching set. And it's so true. But at the same time, Heather, talking to many people who read Spiritist books in general, study it, participate in centers actively or not, it varies from the person's perspective, because as you talk about the search of truth, even though they may find it, when we see there are so many differences in it's like the gradations of understanding of the teachings. So do you cover that in your book in some way, or what do you think about that concept that Spiritism in itself may change according to our own readiness to change, right?
Of course. And from the very beginning, when people learn about Spiritism, they may appreciate it from different aspects. Sometimes, we might just be finding the clear logic to be so refreshing. But other people might really be at a time in their lives when they are feeling some pain and some hurt for some reason. And when we start to realize that we have our spiritual mentors who are with us, that's just one example. We even if we are alone, so to speak, here in the physical world, we are never truly alone. And we have our spirit guides who we can count on for support. And I think that André Luis's books, for example, the books from the Spirit André Luis through the medium Chico Xavier, they are an excellent way for us to really get to know about those spirits who are working in the name of God to help us here in the spiritual realm. For me, that was a wonderful and eye-opening part of my learning about Spiritism. But as you said, Vanessa, we are, our knowledge evolves. Each of us is on our own path. And so we all have something of our own that we are looking for. There's so much in Spiritism. There's really something for everyone. But maybe at this time there are some who think that Spiritism is not right for them right now, and that's perfectly okay. One thing about Spiritism is that we are not here to make everyone Spiritist. That is not our goal by any means. I think almost everyone that I run into in Spiritism and that gets involved in sharing Spiritism does so because of their own enthusiasm and love for what it has done in their own lives and for what they have seen and the way it has helped others. And we simply want to share this awareness for those who are interested and who, for them, the time is right. Knowledge is evolving not only at an individual level, though, it's also evolving our own knowledge as a collective, community of human spirits, because, even Kardec says knowledge itself is going to evolve. The way that we understand concepts today is very different from, 100 or to 1,000 years ago, and someday I think that our spirits tomorrow, whenever that may be, will look back at the ways that we talked about some concepts now and think how, wow, that was still so elementary, But it's not that, I want to make it clear that it's not that God changes or that natural laws change. Nothing in creation in that aspect is what changes. It's just our own ability to understand it. Just like children who grow, their understanding of the world around them changes and evolves as well.
Mm-hmm. And when you talk about the spirits in the spiritual realm, spirit mentors and friends, there is always the flip side of the coin. And you have a chapter dedicated to be aware of bad company. This is just a teaser that I would like you to give to the listener. What is this about? Be aware of the bad company.
Yes, exactly. Because if we look around at the people here on Earth with us, we have such a variety of character, of intellectual knowledge and moral advancement. We have some who are really, really lost and who are following a path at this time that is causing themselves a lot of suffering, and in most cases probably others a lot of suffering. And we have, at the other extreme, we have individuals who are pretty much giving of their life in service to others. They are completely, altruistic and so morally admirable. And we have the entire spectrum in between. And when you think about it, the spirits in the spiritual realm are none other than the souls who at some point were like us, living in the material world, and at present they are just not incarnated. They're not in a physical body. So the variety of levels of advancement and evolution in those discarnate spirits is just like the incarnate spirits. So just like here on Earth, we have the potential for good company, people who help us to see things in healthy ways, who bring us love and joy in our lives and encouragement when we need it, who offer us advice. We can also easily run into those who are going to steer us in the wrong direction, who will offer us, bad advice. Those who are acting for whatever reason, out of it, in somewhere in them, some source of pain or ignorance, they are not good company or good influences. Well, we have the same kind of chances for spiritual company like that in the spiritual realm as well. And the way that we choose, just like here we can choose our company, we can choose the company that we attract from the spiritual realm as well through the quality of our thoughts, our behaviors, our basic outlook and approach to life through the law of attraction is going to bring to us those who are similar to us. And, all of us have our moments of weakness. Nobody is expected here to be perfect. And so in those times when we have some negative thoughts here and there, we have to be aware that those have the potential to sort of invite that kind of company that is less than desirable. And everyone experiences that, but the important thing is to be vigilant and not let it persist, because that's when we can run into danger. The longer that we stay in that kind of company, the stronger of an influence it can have. And so, again, here's another way, Vanessa, that Spiritism can change lives simply by making us aware of that potential for influence. And, it's not just also attracting the company and understanding that process, but also knowing that sometimes when individuals get really entrenched in this process of a negative spiritual influence, and they begin to act out in ways that maybe they don't even understand why they're doing what they're doing. There is often a degree of spiritual influence in that process. And so we learn through Spiritism about some things that we can do to begin to free ourselves from that process that we call obsession.
Okay, that's so interesting. It's a lot of food for thought. Heather, we're going to give one last break, but when we come back, we're going to relate to you a few questions by listeners from Kardec Radio, okay?
Great, okay.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Books of Andre Luis. Through the hands of the most prolific medium of all times, Chico Javier, the spirit doctor Andre Luis wrote a series of books that unveil the mechanisms of life and life after life. From the best-selling novel No Solar, Our Home, to And Life Goes On, the reader will find illumination for a fulfilled life on Earth as well as immortal happiness. Check the many titles available at the international distributor, EDI CEI of America. Their website is www.ediceiofamerica.com.
Spread the word. Kardec Radio, to learn more about Spiritism.
Spiritist Network, your gateway to on-demand Spiritist videos. www.spiritistnetwork.com.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio. Traveling to another country? Immigrating elsewhere? Prepare yourself by reading the book Among Brothers of Other Lands, in which several loving and wise spirits wrote through the hands of Chico Xavier and Waldo Vieira, telling all of us the tips and hints of a successful transition to a new land. Buy your copy today at www.ediceiofamerica.com.
Do you want Spiritist books for your children? At Odyssey of America, you'll find a collection of them, from the best-selling book Our Father, in which the Spirit Mei Mei, through Chico Xavier, brought countless poems, stories, and folk tales based on the Lord's Prayer, to the beautiful and educational collection by the author Eda Yuson Salis on Back to School and many others. Buy your copy today at www.odysseyofamerica.com.
And now we return to our program.
Fortunately for a countless number of individuals, Spiritism has been able to quench that thirst for truth. These are the very words by the author of the book Changing Lives with Spiritism, Heather Bullock Fonseca. And she has been here with us since earlier this morning at Kardec Radio, talking about many different aspects of this great book that you should acquire. Just go to the website, changingliveswithspiritism.com, or go to amazon.com directly and get your copy today. Heather, when we talk about this book and Changing Lives with Spiritism, we have a listener, Brian Vosberg. Thanks so much, Brian, for answering to a question we relayed at the program here. And you said that the Spiritism helped you forge a link between religion and science in that way, what is taught in religious centers about the world has a real world impact in our day-to-day lives. Thank you so much. And he actually, Heather, has a question for you. For those listeners who have access to a Spiritist center, would your book be a good introduction for those just joining a center? Or should they use the material like the Systematic Study of Spiritism, the USC website, or other venues as well?
I think that this book, and in fact, one of the things I had in mind in Spiritism was the newcomer. So I think that this book is really a great introduction to Spiritism, because I wrote it having in mind, my own perspective as someone who, as we spoke about earlier this morning, who had no awareness about our existence, as spirits, and about reincarnation in the way that we learn about it through Spiritism, who even question whether, life goes on after death, things like that, and so many, I would even say frustrations looking at this world around us and not understanding why so much suffering, so much disparity. I think that it is really a great introduction to Spiritism, and I tried to write it in such a way that it walks the reader through several concepts, starting with one of the beginning chapters that kind of outlines some of the basic principles of Spiritism, so that in later discussions in the book they can be built upon. I addressed some of the questions that I had that maybe some of the readers have some similar questions, and some of the, as I mentioned, some of the kinds of misinformation out there about, what Spiritism is. I really wanted to define what Spiritism is not. And so I begin the book in that way to kind of clear the pathway for the concepts discussed later in the chapter. And this book is not an in-depth study of Spiritism. It is simply an introduction to all of the basic teachings that together can really give someone an idea of what Spiritism is about. And that is why I refer to it as like my invitation for people to just open up to new possibilities and set aside preconceived notions and give it a chance to see what this Spiritism is all about and what it may offer to them. So I would encourage. I'm sorry. I would encourage those who go to the Spiritist Center and want to learn more about Spiritism as a newcomer to pick up this book.
It's so interesting what you're saying, and we would say it facilitates a lot the work we have been doing. Would you say this book is transcultural, or is it fitting only for those that are living in North America?
I think that we could call it transcultural because as human spirits, we, as I say in the chapter where I try to explain why I gave the book this title, I talk about how we all have our unique differences, and we can look at those on an individual level or on a cultural level. But the bottom line is that we all have questioning minds. We all have, suffering souls or souls in need of answers for some of the struggles that we may be experiencing. And we all need to give and receive love. So I think that in this way, it is transcultural. Now, because I am writing it with some interjections of my own experience for the purpose of making the book relatable, not because my experience is so special. It's not about me. It's just that I think that other people can see, wow, that's kind of something that I went through as well. So there are probably some aspects that are related to the culture, the time and place that I grew up, but for sure, simply because of so much that we have in common as human spirits, people around the world can find something for them in this book.
Yes, it's true. And we have one more question by a listener. It's about amongst the main books, Kardec's, Chico psychographed books, which ones would you say would be ideal for a beginner?
Well, as we talked about a little bit earlier, it's really hard to say because the knowledge that each of us is seeking at any time is unique to the individual. So I would say definitely Kardec's books for the newcomer because it's important to understand the foundation. I'll give you an example. Chico Xavier's books, André Luiz's books, for example, they are amazing. But if you pick up one of those books as your first book, you might be completely enthused. But some might pick it up and find that this, like science fiction, they might think that it's, just a nice novel, a fictitious novel, because they don't have that baseline understanding of our existence as spirits and the spirit realm and what that's all about. So it really depends on the individual. But when you look at Kardec's books, I think two of the most important, probably for starters, would be either the Spirit's book or the Gospel According to Spiritism. And the Spirit's book, for the one that is ready to go right, to the answers. I have these questions and I just want to know the bottom line, dig deep right away. It's very well structured. The logic that runs through it is amazing, and I think it's perfect for the inquirer. The Gospel According to Spiritism, maybe someone who wants to understand a little bit more from the religious aspect, the moral philosophy aspect of Spiritism, and how we can relate Spiritist teachings to the teachings of the Gospel, or to the struggles and difficulties that we have in this life, and needing to understand how Spiritism can inspire us.
That's great. Heather, we are starting at Kardec Radio. This weekend we're going to release firsthand a new campaign in tribute to the 150th anniversary of the Gospel According to Spiritism. It's the Gospel Faves. What is the Gospel According to Spiritism favorite passage for you?
I don't know a specific passage, but I as I mentioned earlier, that part toward the beginning of that book where Kardec talks about the alliance between science and religion. I mean, for me, right there, that was like, okay, now, I'm ready to go and I'm ready to read, the rest of this book. And I was, enthused because that was one of the struggles that I had prior to encountering Spiritism. And to be able to have someone tell me, okay, now we're going to understand these concepts by seeing how humanity is going to progress and understand that science and religion go hand in hand. I think that is was a great way to start the book, and is something that was very meaningful to me.
That's interesting. And Brian Vosberg is here sharing that another book that is great for starters is What is Spiritism, and you can buy it at odysseyofamerica.com. By the way, we want to share with those listeners, if you want to read more about different resources to study Spiritism, just go to explorespiritism.com. They have a list of different websites where you can learn more about Spiritism, but first and foremost, go to the very website, changingliveswithspiritism.com, where Heather has information about her very book and how you can also have access to it. buying it directly from Amazon.com or another way and means. Heather, we are delighted and we congratulate you for putting this great effort in sharing this book with the listeners at Kardec Radio and with readers all around the world. And we would like to recommend the book to the listener. What would you like to share as your final comments for the listener today at Kardec Radio?
Thank you so much, Vanessa, for the opportunity to join you in this discussion today and to be able to talk to your listeners about this book. I think the final message that I would like to share is that in Spiritism, there is really something for everyone, and that if you are someone who has a lot of questions about life, about God, about our purpose for being here and why we experience the things that we do, I would really encourage you to check out this book and find all the amazing insights that Spiritism can offer. And I'd also like to say that if anyone has any questions when reading the book and you would like to hear from me personally, you can send an email to the email address at the website explorespiritism.com, which is editor@explorespiritism.com, and I will be more than happy to exchange emails with you and answer any questions you may have.
That's great. Heather, we thank you very much, and we hope to have you more often here at Kardec Radio, okay?
Thank you very much, Vanessa. I wish you and the listeners a wonderful day.
Thanks. So, dear listener, ChangingLivesWithSpiritism.com. Go to the website, explore this beautiful book. It is certainly a book that we needed, and you can get a hold of it just by going to the website, ChangingLivesWithSpiritism.com, getting a hold of what it is and where to buy it. For now, we're going to give one last break, and when we come back, more news and our final prayer.
We will return to our program after these messages. Want to learn more about the ins and outs of mediumship? The book, In the Realms of Mediumship, by the spirit doctor Andre Luiz through the medium Chico Xavier, analyzes the various aspects of mediumistic communication and mediumship. He also praises the efforts of mediums who are faithful to the spiritual mandate they received before they reincarnated, warning them about the risks of badly practiced exchanges between the two worlds. Buy your copy today at www.ediceiofamerica.com.
The Spiritist magazine is a trimestral, digital periodical that publishes the latest news on the Spiritist thought and the movement in the USA and worldwide at www.spiritistmagazine.com.
Spread the word. Kardec Radio, to learn more about Spiritism.
Study Spiritism online at eSpiritism. eSpiritism is an online tool to promote the study and practice of Spiritism while contributing to the preparation of Spiritist practitioners. For full access to courses, go to www.e-spiritism.org.
If you missed out on any previous shows, no worries. We have an on-demand section of all previous shows and interviews. Go to our website at www.kardecradio.com.
Emmanuel's Novels. The reputable mentor, Emmanuel, wrote a 5-book series of Spiritist novels that can truly transform your life, starting with 2,000 years ago, Emmanuel delights our minds with the true account of characters that are so similar to each of us. Discover yourself in Emmanuel's novels and live better. Buy your copy today at www.ediceiofamerica.com. And now we return to our program.
Dear listener, we just had a blast talking to Heather Ballack Fonseca, the author of the book Changing Lives with Spiritism. And you can get a hold of the book by going to the website changingliveswithspiritism.com and learning how to access your very copy. And it's a must for everyone who is interested in getting to know more about Spiritism, is puzzled about which book to start first. Heather brings to us an opportunity to demystify a lot of myths that are happening around the world and pushing people away from getting to know the beauty of the teachings of Spiritism. There is no need for fear, no need to reject it, because it actually is talking to our hearts, bringing consolation, and as she says, giving a fresh perspective about life. Right now, we want to share with you that this weekend, as we are updating our website for the programs of March, we have beautiful programs in March at Kardec Radio as well, and we are going to launch a campaign, which is the Gospel Faves. And what is it? It's about the tribute to the 150th anniversary of the Gospel According to Spiritism by Kardec. We want to listen from you, dear listener. What is your favorite passage or excerpt or chapter of the very book, The Gospel According to Spiritism? Share with us at kardecradio.com. We have a contact form, and when you share it, we're going to dedicate the whole year, each and every program, we're going to share your favorite passages right here at Kardec Radio. And right now, we want to share with you that next week, on Saturday, we're going to have an interview, quite intriguing, with the founder of the movement, Death Café. Can you believe there are people around the world that get together to talk about death? And that's not in a morbid way, but to encourage people to become less afraid and more familiar with the natural process of death. We're going to be here talking with John Wood, who actually founded the very movement, Death Café. There are hundreds of them around the world, and you need to know about it because there are people getting together to talk about death, making it more familiar and facilitating the steps on the understanding of death. This is going to happen in a week from today. And what else? Many other beautiful programs. Just wait and see. The website kardecradio.com is going to be updated tomorrow for you. And talking about tomorrow we have Spiritist Awareness at 8 p.m. for you. On Wednesdays, we have God at Home with Francisca Kranz directly from England, together with Mackenzie Mello from Massachusetts. And then on Thursday, Daniel Santos, the founder of Spiritist Network, is going to share with you another beautiful talk from speakers in Spiritism around the world. Right now, we invite you for our final moment, a very important, something that Heather also talks to you in her book. There is a chapter about prayer in the Spiritist view. How about if we pray together now? Let us then. You may close your eyes if you can, if you're not driving, if you are not doing anything else. Close your eyes for a moment. Join us. Prayer is a communication between our hearts and God. Dear God, It is so beautiful to see the progress of life. Many years ago, we had almost no resources in Spiritism in the United States of America. And today, we are here at Kardec Radio talking about a book written by an American Spiritist, sharing beautiful opportunities to console hearts and minds by refreshing perspectives. It is the miracle of your love in our lives, and we thank you. We thank you for giving us each and every day more signs that the inevitable truth of life shall become evident to all of us, not only in some countries in this world, but everywhere and elsewhere. No matter the obstacles by materialism. Thank you for your mercy, for the inspiration. Thank you for supporting Heather in this effort, which is important for all of us. And so be it. Dear listener, we hope you have enjoyed, and of course, if you have a question, comment, just write to us at kardecradio.com. We have a contact form. We are happy, always happy to hear from you. And you know, we are very thankful for all the listeners who keep sending us messages, and we don't read them here at Kardec Radio, but we always reply to you. Sometime we'll be able to collect them all and do a whole program about the beautiful messages that we constantly receive from you, dear listener at Kardec Radio. For now, we wish you lots of blessings, and don't forget, God is always with us. All we need to do is to be with Him.
Thank you for listening to Kardec Radio, broadcasting live every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Email us and share your comments at www.kardecradio.com. Until next time, we wish you many blessings.